A federal judge has dropped charges against former FBI Director James Comey. It's a major blow for U.S. President Donald Trump and his effort to punish his perceived enemies. The criminal case against New York Attorney General Letitia James has also been dropped, and the CBC's Katie Nicholson joins us now live from our Washington bureau. So what did the judge say, Katie?
Well, Judge Cameron McGowan Currie, what she's done here is she's tossed out the cases against both James and Comey, and it is because of who brought them, Lindsay Halligan. And I will quote to you from the opening paragraph in the sort of Comey decision. She basically says, a former White House aide with no prior prosecutorial experience. That's how she describes Lindsay Halligan. And it really gives you a sense of where she was going in her decision. Judge Currie concluded that Halligan, who the Trump administration hastily named the interim U.S. attorney for the Eastern District of Virginia back in September, had no lawful authority to present the indictment against the former FBI director and the New York Attorney General. Halligan, of course, is a former Florida real estate insurance lawyer. She brought those charges against Comey and James after her predecessor, Eric Siebert, would not. And we've seen reporting that internally and at the attorney's office, they had decided that those cases were weak. That's why they hadn't been brought before. Halligan, however, she secured those indictments before grand juries and snagged that Comey indictment, you may remember, just before that statute of limitations was about to run out and the allegations against him. Now, although there's been reporting, of course, just last week, there were issues about how Halligan proceeded with the Comey grand jury. Allegations of the grand jury didn't, in fact, see the final indictment before it went through. Judge Currie has essentially said here that because Halligan was not properly appointed, her actions in both these cases, they're unlawful, and essentially now these charges have been dismissed without prejudice, meaning theoretically they could be refiled, but you still have to overcome, for one, some of those evidentiary issues that were previously indicated. Now, just remember here, this indictment against Comey, it came after the president had put a post on social media to the DOJ, to his Attorney General Pam Bondi, essentially imploring her to take action around some of the investigations of his perceived enemies. And we are hearing today some reaction both from James Comey and Letitia James, who had both sort of alleged that this was a weaponization of the justice system in many ways. So for her part, Letitia James says she's heartened by this decision. And James Comey actually posted something on his Instagram not too long ago. Here's a little excerpt of that.
I'm grateful that the court ended the case against me, which was a prosecution based on malevolence and incompetence, and a reflection of what the Department of Justice has become under Donald Trump, which is heartbreaking. But I was also inspired by the example of the career people who refused to be part of this travesty. It cost some of them their jobs, which is painful, but it preserved their integrity, which is beyond price.
Now, Andrew, I did reach out to the White House. We did get a statement back. This is what it says. The facts of the indictments against Comey and James have not changed, and this will not be the final word on the matter. That came from Abigail Jackson, a White House spokeswoman. We are, of course, keeping an eye out. I understand the White House press secretary may speak a little bit later this afternoon, and we're also keeping an eye on, of course, the president's social media presence because, of course, he had asked for some action to be taken in some of these cases right there on Truth Social.
And so what could this mean for other cases?
It's hard to say, Andrew. I mean, these two cases, some of the other investigations that are underway, I think about the former CIA head, John Brennan, for example, those are still ongoing. This may serve as notice, however, that you have to follow the proper procedures. Dot your I's, cross your T's. This is quite different, these two cases, and it's been noted by a number of legal analysts than, say, the John Bolton case, where there's quite a different type of evidence and quite a bit more evidence, as we've seen in that indictment there. So, I mean, I wouldn't read too much into this, but certainly there is a bit of a notice being served here that there at the very least has to be the basic sort of constitutional laws followed for, in the Halligan case. This is a case where someone was not Senate appointed, and it says it right there in the judge's decision that at least the person who's bringing the charges has to sort of meet the criteria to actually be meeting the charges. That is the reasoning for this these two cases essentially being tossed at this point.
Katie, thank you. The CBC's Katie Nicholson in Washington.